You're in bed with someone you are deeply attracted to. The lighting is right, you feel completely safe, and you genuinely want this. But instead of leaning into the physical experience, your eyes snap open. Your body simply refuses to cooperate. You aren't distracted by a random thought about your grocery list or an email from work. Your attention has fractured. One part of your brain is trying to experience intimacy, while another part has pulled away to grade your own physical performance in real time. This specific cognitive split is a well-documented clinical phenomenon. In the 1970s, sex therapy pioneers William Masters and Virginia Johnson identified this exact behavior and gave it a name: spectatoring. Spectatoring happens when you mentally step outside of your own physical body during a sexual encounter. Instead of feeling the sensations of touch or emotional connection, you become a third-party auditor, watching yourself from above. The internal monologue takes over completely. You start asking a rapid-fire series of evaluative questions. Am I aroused enough? Is this taking too long? Does my partner look bored? Am I doing this right? Suddenly, a vulnerable sensory experience converts into a high-stakes exam. Your mind is no longer participating in the act. It is frantically scanning for threats, trying to ensure you don't fail. In these moments, the patient is not trapped by a physical defect or a lack of attraction. The block is entirely cognitive. A self-imposed surveillance mechanism has completely shut down the pathway to intimacy. To understand why this mental audit is so destructive, we have to look past the psychology and examine the hard neurobiology of human arousal. This animated model shows our two primary operating states. Sexual arousal lives entirely in the parasympathetic nervous system. This is the rest and digest state, a biological network that only functions when the brain feels completely safe, relaxed, and immersed in physical sensation. But the moment that internal spectator starts asking anxious, evaluating questions, the brain registers a threat. The sympathetic nervous system, the network responsible for fight or flight, aggressively overrides the system, instantly dimming the parasympathetic side. Your body treats performance anxiety exactly like a physical predator. It immediately redirects blood flow and energy away from reproductive organs and pumps it toward your muscles to prepare you to run or fight. Arousal collapses instantly. It is a strict biological rule. Because the brain perceives this performance pressure as a literal threat to your survival, it is physiologically impossible to be anxious and aroused at the exact same time. Looking at this flowchart, we can trace exactly how a single bad experience locks into a circular pattern. It begins right here, with anticipatory anxiety. A person approaches a new intimate encounter, already carrying the weight and worry of a previous failure. That underlying fear acts as a trigger. Almost immediately, the spectator arrives to hyper-monitor the situation, desperate to make sure nothing goes wrong this time. As we've seen, this intense cognitive monitoring trips the fight or flight response. The sympathetic override kicks in, and the physical arousal drops. Because the biology has been hijacked, the physical response gives out. The person experiences a performance failure, despite desperately wanting the connection. This failure acts as hard evidence for the brain. It validates the original fear, feeding right back into the anticipatory anxiety and locking the loop. The next time, the spectator will show up even earlier and even louder. This sequence proves the patient's body isn't broken. It is functioning exactly as it is designed to under a perceived threat. To fix the physical response, the clinical cure must target the psychological trigger. This is exactly why telling a patient to just relax or get out of their head is completely useless. You cannot casually talk a nervous system out of a locked biological threat response. Reversing this loop requires a structured, active clinical intervention. We have to systematically force the brain out of its rigid evaluation mode and gently guide it back into feeling actual physical sensations. This document outlines the DZIRI method, an engineered 5-phase framework designed specifically to break cognitive loops like performance anxiety. Looking closely at the second step, the zero mental noise or 0-point phase acts as the exact circuit breaker needed to silence the internal critic. By temporarily stripping away all goals, expectations, and performance demands, this phase removes the conditions the spectator relies on. It gently guides the patient's nervous system out of the threat zone and back into a purely sensory, receptive state. Proper clinical protocols do not rely on vague advice. They act as essential neurobiological circuit breakers, rescuing the patient by systematically rewiring where their attention is allowed to go. For clinicians, treating complex sexual performance anxiety requires advanced, evidence-based tools. Relying on outdated platitudes simply leaves your patients trapped in a cycle they cannot escape on their own. To master and safely apply these specific neurobiological interventions, practitioners must complete the DZIRI Level 2 Advanced Practitioner Training. Click the link below to download the free clinical assessment guide and take your first step toward earning your Level 2 certification. Mastering this precise protocol provides the clinical leverage required to disrupt the loop. It shifts a patient's experience from a self-fulfilling prophecy of fear back into an authentic, grounded connection.